They're not speaking. It's like it is.
Okay.
Kept it.
That's a great idea. Johnny, you stole the
I was going to hit.
Call the Broken Arrow City Council meeting to order. We have a invocation by Pastor Chauncey. Is he here? He's not here. We're gonna have to get on to Pastor Chauncey. I thought I saw him too. Okay. Roll call.
Ford, Udi,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Mayor Gillespie.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any items from the consent agenda to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Consent agenda passes. Item 7, public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, and awards. There are none. Citizens' opportunity to address the council. Item 8, there is none. Item 9, general council business. 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of 2 voting delegates and 1 alternative voting delegate for the National League of Cities annual business meeting held on Saturday, November 19th. Michael Spurgeon. Sorry, I waited until you had that.
I need council to appoint 2 delegates for the National League of Cities event on the 19th.
I know, I believe Lisa's coming back on Friday. Johnny, you're not attending.
I'm not attending this year.
Okay. Vice Mayor and I will still be there. Scott, will you be there on Saturday?
I plan to be there on Saturday.
Okay.
So it matters not to me. But so we need 2 delegates and
One alternate.
an alternate.
So how about I nominate you and the Vice Mayor as the delegates and I'll be the alternate.
Sounds good.
If
I
that
second.
works for
All
me.
right.
I think you need to do it on the screen.
Yeah, you're not used to me.
I know I'm not, so. All right. So we have a motion and a second for Councilmember Udi to be one of the delegates as well as Vice Mayor Gillespie. And then I will be the alternate. All right. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a 2022 Veterans Day Parade and authorization for the fee waivers for all associated city fees. Larry Curtis.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. The parade is intended to be a community event to honor the veterans that have served and are serving in our military. The event will be taking place in November. The parade will be sponsored by the Broken Arrow Elks Lodge 2673 and plans to involve other veteran programs such as the VFW, DAV, Broken Arrow ROTC, reserves. Sorry.
You guys hear that?
Yeah.
I don't hear anything, Larry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Is supported by the City Council this evening for the Veterans Parade will take place on November 5th. And if approved, City Council will direct staff to waive all fees for the parade, which is estimated at a cost of $8,275. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
You guys have any questions?
I make a motion that we approve the request authorization.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. I just want to thank the Elks Lodge for coming together and putting together a veterans parade finally for the city of Broken Arrow. Tulsa does an outstanding job, obviously, and this will be the third annual, and they're going to have it every year the Saturday before Veterans Day. That way we don't conflict with Tulsa. So we invite everyone to come out on November 5th at 10 a.m. on Main Street. So
Thank you.
Someone wants to
thank you,
say.
Larry. Sounds like maybe silence your phone. All right. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to accept the hazard mitigation performance grant and award the lowest responsible bid to SafetyCom Inc. and approve and authorize execution of a construction contract for the addition and renovation of Warning Sirens project. Ethan Edwards or Jamie Ott.
Evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Spurgeon. In 2018, the citizens of Broken Arrow voted to approve a GEO bond, which included a project to replace and add numerous storm sirens throughout the community. The project was advertised on June 23rd and on June 30th of this year. The project included the replacement of it or an addition of 28 sirens. One bid was received and opened on July 14th, 2022. The lowest responsible bid was SafetyCom for $901,508.55, which included the replacement and addition of 21 of the 28 sirens. Upon receiving the bid, city staff worked to complete the application process for a hazard mitigation grant. This application was for the grant to pay for 10 of the sirens. The grant would cover 90% of the cost, and the city would be responsible for 10% of the match. On August 1st, 2022 and October 4th, 2022, the City Council voted to extend the bids that were received on the project while city staff completed the grant application. SafetyCom also agreed in writing to the extensions of the bid. In early October of this year, city staff was notified of the approval of their application for the hazard mitigation grant. The grant was to cover the sirens listed on schedules 1 through 8, 10 through 11, for a grand total of $387,734.13. The city's match for that is $43,081.57. In addition to the sirens covered by the grant, city staff is recommending award of Schedule 9, 12, 18, 24, 25, and 28. These sirens were determined to be the locations of the highest need. The total cost of the sirens was $470,692.95, making the city's total contribution $513,774.42. Staff's recommending that you accept the hazard mitigation performance grant and award the lowest responsible bid to SafetyCom. I'll be able to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions or discussion?
I make a motion to accept the hazard mitigation performance grant and award the lowest possible bid to SafetyCom Inc.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of BACP-185 Comprehensive Plan Change, 101 Creek, 22.33 acres, Level 6 to Level 3, generally located 1/2 mile west of 37th Street, 209th East Avenue. Larry Curtis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Larry Curtis, Community Development Director. BACP 185 is a request to change the comprehensive plan designation from Level 6 to Level 3 on 22.33 acres located approximately 1/2 mile west of 37th Street and 1/4 mile south of New Orleans. Property owner is interested in potentially developing the subject tract as a multifamily residential development. The comprehensive plan designation on the property is currently level 6, which would not support this type of development. The level 3 transitional designation requested by the applicant would allow for RM zoning. BACP was reviewed by the Planning Commission, BACP 185 was reviewed by the Planning Commission on September 22nd, 2022. 12 residents spoke in opposition during the public hearing item. Another 9 residents noted their opposition but did not wish to speak. Residents spoke with concerns about increasing or potential safety, crime issues, possible decrease in property values, loss of quality of life, loss of neighborhood character, rural feel of the area, school overcrowding, traffic, and impact to wildlife. 2 petitions were turned in during the public hearing. Staff recommended that BACP 185 be approved, subject to the property being platted. In their meeting that was held by the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 of BACP 185 being approved per staff recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know the applicant is also here to answer any questions that you may have.
So this in essence changed it from industrial zoning for that part to he's asking for apartment zoning.
Correct.
Level 3 would be a buffer type PUD. Is it correct?
So if this amendment to the comprehensive plan were to go through, it would remove 20 plus acres from being level 6 to level 3. And level 6 does allow for light industrial as a potential use. And level 3 would not, but would allow for RM multifamily zoning.
In the materials, I'm referring to, I believe there's a proposed platting. I mean, I know it's conceptual.
Yeah,
And it's not, it's the,
there you go.
yeah, thank you. So the only portion that would be subject to the amended comprehensive plan would be the portion in pink or purple,
pink,
whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the only portion that is before you this evening, is that portion of the property. The remainder of it would remain level 6 as it currently stands right now.
So if the level, if the portion was allowed to be amended to level 3, would the 300-foot buffer be required to remain in place? And what I mean is, could they build anything in that buffer?
As it stands right now, this property is still zoned agricultural. Even
Right.
if council were to take action this evening on amending the comprehensive plan, the applicant would still have to come before you with a rezoning request and most likely a PUD request. And so during that time and that process is whenever any type of buffers, requirements, any of those things would be put in place. This does not change the land use, AKA the applicant just can't go out there and start building an apartment or anything right now until the zoning and the PUD is put in place. But I will say that in regards to relative to what you're asking for, that strip that would remain level 6 behind the level 3.
Okay. And then the final question at this point, can if we approve amending the comprehensive plan, can we make the amendment contingent upon submission of zoning application and or PUD for us, where it doesn't automatically happen unless the developer follows through with what they're planning to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, it can.
So it doesn't, we don't change it and then it sets out there, because I don't like comprehensive plan changes. So if we're going to, I want to make it contingent upon what
Yes.
it is we're being told.
Yes,
Okay,
council can.
thank you.
The area that's left
Mhm.
to the left there, is that developable? Will it be wide enough to develop for an industrial area?
Due to the floodplain that's denoted in the area, so there's a drainage area that's floodplain. The back portion of the property has some drainage issues associated with it. It most likely would not be developable into. I never want to say it can't, because with time, money, and engineering, anything is possible. But I will say that site is being indicated for a detention pond, which makes the most sense for the utilization of that. Even if it were either it was multifamily or whatever it would be in level 6 for commercial or light industrial use.
So, originally, so right now, that entire area is light industrial.
That entire area is level 6, which does allow for commercial, light industrial, heavy office space, that type of usage.
And when we were talking about the area to the left, we're talking about like what's in the teal, like the to the west. Is that
The
to the
blue,
west?
the yellow, and the light blue. Yeah,
Okay.
that's to the west.
And what do those colors mean?
According to the applicant, on what they submitted in this, the light blue is being proposed or is showing to be a future detention pond. The dark blue is overland drainage, so a drainage way for carrying of water. And then the yellow is being indicated by the applicant as a mini storage type use.
Okay.
But again, they still, before any of that can move forward, there
I
still has to be
understand.
a rezoning request
I understand.
On those pieces,
on any of
on
this.
any of it. Okay.
Yes,
Because it's agricultural zoning now. We're
Correct.
just looking at the PUD.
correct.
I mean, the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Right.
So for clarity, maybe it's clear to everyone, but for me, no matter what decision is made tonight with regard to the comprehensive plan, whether it be amended or not,
Mhm.
there are still a number of steps that must be taken before any of this would come to fruition, including either a PUD or a zoning request,
Yes.
because it's still going to be agricultural until, and then there would have to be approval of plats and all those other things.
Correct. If this were to remain that is with level 6 moving forward, application would need to come forward with a rezoning request first. After that, if the rezoning was approved by Planning Commission and City Council, they would have to go through extensive engineering and design and plating requirements as per our code, which is a higher standard than most of our neighbors.
And again, if we were to amend the comprehensive plan, we could make that amendment not effective until it's rezoned or PUD is.
Correct.
Thank you.
What
Mhm.
street is to the south?
That is, would be a half section line. And then all the way down would be 111. So there isn't
Right.
anything there right now.
Yeah.
The property
Okay.
that's currently owned to the south of this tract is owned by the
Okay.
OTA. So there isn't any road going through there right now.
So the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority owns,
They own the land to the south.
okay.
So they could sell that off and do whatever they want with it.
Yes.
Okay. I just-
Shortest answer.
Subject to whatever zoning rules are in place for that.
Absolutely. When it transfers to private ownership, it does become contingent on our authority.
Is that in the city limits?
It is.
Okay.
That is within the city limits. Our comprehensive plan currently shows that there to be an frontage road along this portion of the turnpike that goes down. Currently, it is level 3 to the south as well. And so a frontage road that will parallel this area all the way down to a future 111, because I don't believe 111 currently goes all the way
Yeah,
through.
it
right now.
ends
Okay.
it ends at Lynn Lane.
So that is the plan, is to do eventually a frontage road.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, where are they
Yeah.
getting in and out?
Yeah,
there?
we'll have to go all the way down and then future expansion of 111 to sometime in the
Okay.
future.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion at this time, we do have citizens that would like to speak.
Mayor,
So
would the applicant want to speak before?
we can, I was going to have him speak after, but
Oh,
yep,
I'm
he
sorry.
can.
Thank you.
Yep. Is the applicant here?
My name's Alan Betchen, AAB Engineering, 200 North McKinley in Sand Springs. I think Larry did a really great job of explaining what's before you. A complication with a tract of this size and this configuration is outside of heavy industrial users, you trying to develop it for commercial purposes, that kind of depth with that configuration with the limited access is a big challenge. And we have several tracks, and I've talked to many of you about those tracks, about the collector roads are a heavy lifting whenever you can't get in from one side. This is a unique location where we actually are abutting the arterial, but you need multiple uses to be able to facilitate a viable project. And that's really, this is the first step toward getting to a plan that we can actually go out and market and bring more detailed specs in for what those users would be. The effort that goes into the next step is not insubstantial. And that's why we're here seeking the guidance of the council about what is an appropriate use, and is level 3 appropriate for a portion of this. That the area already has level 3 designated to the south. The problem with that tract is, one, it's landlocked, which is why OTA owns it, because they landlocked the parcel when they built the turnpike. But more importantly, it's significantly encumbered by floodplain and blue line streams. So there's heavy core regulation and remediation that would be done. So it's not really a very viable tract for that use. So moving that up and allowing an existing tract to potentially serve that use that's already shown in the comprehensive plan makes sense from a planning and development standpoint. There is a significant drainage way that we showed on that conceptual plan that will ultimately need to be maintained just because of core regulations. I'm not saying it would be impossible, but it's just not practical to get rid of that. It would stay in that green belt, and then detentions would be proposed in the southwest corner. This is a very high level concept, and I want to stress that this is just, it's hard to talk in generalities if we don't give you some concept of what could happen, but we do need to get a first step into what the plan, what the council's feeling on the comprehensive plan, because right now it's all level 6, which is a pretty heavy use and doesn't make it a very viable development tract. I hope that answers questions. I'd be happy to answer any specifics about what we're looking at.
Any questions of the applicant? Okay, well, we'll have the citizens speak, and then that way, if there's any further questions, we'll have you come back up. We do have 7 that are in opposition that do not want to speak. We have a petition here with 75 signatures that are opposed. And then we have, I think it's 5 that want to speak in opposition, and then we have 1 that wants to speak in favor. So I'm going to start with the in favor, Richie Strain. Did you mark the wrong box?
1412.
Oh, it says 90 on here.
And you may not have been able to read my writing.
Okay, we'll figure this one out. Hold tight, and we'll go on to the next one. Nicole Orcott. Hi. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Nicole Alcott. My neighbors asked me to speak. My husband and I moved here in 2000 from Ankeny, Iowa, in the middle of a cornfield. Came here for school. 9/11 happened. We lived at 61st and Memorial. We were there a couple of years. It was beautiful. It was unlike anything we'd seen. Owners changed and our windows started getting shot out. So we got an attorney. We moved to Broken Arrow and thought, man, then 9/11 happened. My husband's in the airline industry. So we ended up making this our home rather than go back. And we brought the property the 6th up closest. And I wanted to first tell you, when I get up in the morning, I go outside in my back porch. I look at my beautiful yard and the beautiful green back there. And I see deer, and we have owls, and we have hawks and beautiful animals that you don't see. I'm a home health nurse. You don't see them anywhere else in Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow is my area. I also want to talk about our community. This isn't just a neighborhood that this would hinder upon and destroy. I can tell you that everybody knows everybody. I don't have an alarm system in my home because nobody could ever come in and get out with anything because my neighbors know. They aren't just my neighbors. They've become my family. I have been, as a nurse, to just about everybody's house that you can walk in distance of. I have one neighbor who won't go to the hospital unless I come see them. And they've done all of those things for me. They've become my family. And that's the kind of neighborhood that this would impede on and destroy. And I'm so concerned. We've raised a family here. It's going to change everything about our way of life. You know, we moved out here because it's like back home in the middle of the rural cornfield where everybody waves, knows everybody. We all love one another. We all look out for each other. And this would change that. And all of my neighbors are so very concerned of that type of change and those extra people and all of the extra traffic. You know, since they put the college in, it's hard to even get out onto 101st from our streets because people don't follow the speed limits. And adding another 500,000 people, that 500 cars, it'll be impossible. And it will definitely change this neighborhood that you can go anywhere in Broken Arrow and not find another one like it. We want it to stay the same. We don't want that extra 500 people. We don't want trouble in the schools. We don't want the extra traffic. We want our neighbor, our community, our family who looks after each other, who takes care of each other. We want it to be the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cade Chilcote?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, nice to be with you this evening. My name is Cade Chilcote, and I've been kind of helping the community sort of get our thoughts together to present to you. And it was clear from the commission meeting that I did not know what I was talking about and I needed to figure it out. And Councilman Udi was really helpful too, sort of like helping me figure out how all this works. And so I took it upon myself to make sure that my neighbors understood exactly what was being proposed here so that they could respond. And so I can tell you tonight, we're saying with a unified voice, all the people in the petition and everyone here, we'd like to ask you to vote no on the amendment to Comprehensive Plan 185, because we don't want it to be possible to put that high density housing on that tract of land, simply because we know it would completely change the complexion of how we live. We know the kind of congestion it would create. And see, we understand, you know, we have to grow. It needs to be something. And that's why, you know, we accept the commercial, the kind of activity and congestion that would be caused by commercial, we accept. But putting 1,000 people in that 20 acres and whatever, 400 plus cars, I mean, we know that would be absolutely devastating to our quality of life. It's already getting hard to turn out of, you know, our neighborhood rush hour. People have to wait 45 minutes to drop their kids off at Rosewood Elementary. I mean, the kind of thing that we'd be in for if we turn this into a really high density residential area would be really, really big trouble for us. And honestly, I mean, if you really look at the area, you know, if you really examine it, I mean, we don't have, I mean, it's really undeveloped. We don't have commercial over there. We don't have any multifamily residential. It's like, you know, we live on these acre-sized lots, and it's really strange that someone would evaluate this area and say, okay, we got a horse pasture, we got a scout ranch, we got these people on these giant lots. Great, you know, 20-acre apartment complex. It seems really heavy-handed to us, and that's why, like, everyone in our community is really upset about it. And, you know, what we have a lot of seniors and a lot of people. I mean, Miss McGuire's here. I mean, she built her home on this property in 1973. We have a lot of people like that, and they've been fostering and supporting the city for 50 years. And they're saying very clearly that we don't want this kind of really high density residential 100 yards from our neighborhood. We know it would profoundly change our lives. You know, it's very evident from looking at how we live. We came all the way out there to live a certain way. And it's very evident that this would change that profoundly. So we're asking you to vote no on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Lou Gilmore?
I'm Mary, pardon me. I'm Mary Lou Gilmore, and I live in Elmwood Estates, the first street west of that addition. And I've lived there since 1975. When I first moved in there, we realized the camp was there, the Camp Russell was there, but that was okay. And then later on, they put a college in, and then they put the freeway in. And I can't ride my bicycle down 101st anymore. I used to be able to ride my bicycle, and one of my neighbors was killed riding his bicycle. So I hate to see anything worse come in. And this high density residential development would be terrible for our neighborhood. I love our neighborhood. I know the neighbors. I know we have so many friends in our neighborhood, and it is my backyard is like a backyard wildlife sanctuary. I love it. And I just think that this development would ruin everything that we've had. And I want you to vote no for this. I really do love where I'm at and the way that we've got the way that we are living now. And I hate to see it change. Please vote no against this, please.
Thank you. Warren McGuire.
I just really want to speak to the traffic issue. Right now, we get calls that there's going to be heavy traffic in our area and that we should find a different route. We can't find a different route. There is no other route. I anticipate that there will probably be growth in the number of things we have at the park. And it's going to be more traffic. And I also anticipate that the university is going to grow, and that's going to be more traffic. Do we really want to add more cars in this neighborhood to really congest things up? And that's all I need to say.
Thank you, sir. Scott Smilnak.
Good evening. I am Scott Smilnak.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I live in the neighborhood, same neighborhood. The objectives are unclear. I don't understand how you spend millions of dollars or wanting to, and you have unclear objectives. I don't get that, but we're talking about the drainage up here. And to the west of that is a spill-off that's already causing flooding in houses along that runoff, which City of Broken Arrow has said, okay, well, we don't have anything to do with that. It's the residents' responsibility. However, it continues to be burdened with drainage from surrounding areas. So we have people in adjoining neighborhoods whose houses are being flooded when we get a high rate of rain. So I fail to see how that's going to have a zero impact on the already overburdened overflow. And cause more damage to more people's houses. That just does not make sense to me. And I think that it's all nice and good to say, well, here's what's planned, when I do not believe for a second that all the issues of drainage have been addressed by the applicant, because the applicant doesn't live here and have to deal with the ramifications after the fact. Applicant builds what he wants to build, goes home. Everybody to the west and south of there spends the next decade or so, however long it takes for the house to fall apart, getting water out of their house. That's it. I would ask you to vote no. Have a great day.
Thank you. I will add that the city would not allow the drainage to be worse. A developer can't come in and make a situation worse than it is. So they would be required to make sure that is not happening.
I have already had moving water around my house. Granted, it's in the floods. I knew that when I bought it. That's not the issue. What happens is the water backs up from Indian Springs, just keeps backing up. So I don't know how the city is going to make that bridge between, and I'm not saying you're not being sincere.
Sure.
I don't understand how the city makes the bridge between the runoff isn't the city's responsibility, it's I have a 50-foot tree laying lengthwise in that runoff behind my house. It's been there because I don't have the money to have it pulled out. The city's not going to have it pulled out. And it's already backing water up.
Have you contacted the city about that?
Yeah,
by chance?
I was told
Okay.
the city has no responsibility. If you want it out, take it out.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. So applicant, do you want to add anything? Mhm.
I don't want to make any assertions about, hey, this is a design plan from an engineering runoff standpoint. That's not even, that's still a couple of steps away from the even beginning of where we're standing right now. The suitability of the tract is really, when you look at it as far as its orientation toward the turnpike and its location and proximity to the college, it makes it a good potential use for multifamily. There are other uses that are allowed in that, and that is a whole nother conversation to come back with detailed plans and have, I'm quite certain, many meetings with the neighborhood in the process of developing those plans and trying to be respectful of what's adjoining and buffering and addressing those concerns to the best of our abilities. This is the first step in really looking at what's an appropriate location for level 3. And the whole thought process with this, just to be very honest, is it's already been designated within the plan that level 3 is appropriate in the area, but it's on a tract that's not really a viable tract from a development standpoint. Putting it into a tract that is viable from a development standpoint makes more sense. And then comparing that to the industrial and more intense uses that could otherwise be on that parcel, I think there's a real opportunity to create a project that everybody's proud of from a development standpoint and bring those back. But we need some input and buy-in, and certainly what we've heard will be brought and taken into account as you develop the final PUD and plans and zoning applications. But the appropriateness of level 3 and this being a unified level 6 is really the question that's in front of the council. And I think that this site is uniquely suited to fit a need that is out there, and it's in an appropriate location and allows a site that is otherwise difficult to develop to actually be a viable tract. And that's what the request is.
So if I'm interpreting correctly, you have not decided what type of residential will go into this. So it could be apartments, it could be RS4, it could be duplexes. You haven't decided that?
This is just a comprehensive plan change. So all of the authorizations within level 3 would be viable options. And frankly, there is a couple of different opportunities that have already presented themselves from that will, the neighborhood has every option and opportunity to weigh in on as we develop them, as far as it being a detached single family product that's on a single lot, or maybe a dense community on traditional streets, or true garden style, kind of what everybody thinks of when they think apartments. Sure. All of those are viable options within that, but each one of those is a very tailored and I mean, you know what you expect from council, and I know what the staff expects of us whenever we bring one of those zonings forward, as far as renderings and detailed site plans and really committing to this is exactly what's going to be built. And if there's no expectation for a support of that type of use, then developing those plans is all for naught. And this is the first step toward that process. It is not a guaranteed of what that is. And I want to hear that. And we would welcome the requirement being that a PUD be placed on it so that there's more oversight as it comes in, that a straight zoning application not be proposed. If it was multifamily, I don't know that I've ever done one not in a PUD in Broken Arrow, if I'm going to be really honest. But I guess that would be possible. So we would welcome that requirement. But if you just look purely at the plan and the viability of tracks, this is an appropriate shift of density that makes sense and allows that collector to be started. And that was a condition that staff brought up quickly, is that the collector has to be extended to the south. And that's one of the bigger problems with connectivity and developing the parcels, is you have to start eating the elephant somewhere. And this is the first big tract. And if you can't develop it cohesively, then it just never develops. And that's really the idea behind this application, is looking at what is a viable development plan in today's market. If it stayed as is, if it developed, it's probably going to be a much more noxious and hard use for the neighbors than what would be in a lighter touch of what's proposed now, to be really honest with you.
So at this point, it could be a grow facility.
Well, thank you.
Good.
I think that's one of the, did you have any questions?
I
I had questions for
had a
Larry,
comment.
I think.
Johnny, do you want to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Or did you have more questions for applicant?
No, I don't have any more questions. I just had a comment. Do you want to talk to Larry first?
Doesn't matter.
You know, excuse me. I disagree with a lot of the citizens brought in. A PUD is extremely important. It should tell you when you buy your property, what's going to be built future in that. It might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, it might be 50 years. Right now, it's telling you that it is going to be light industrial. That was what was put on this PUD whenever it was looked at. Comprehensive plan, whenever it was looked at. The comp plan is a legal document. You can use it in court or whatever. I do not like to change a comp plan unless, the surrounding populace is in agreement with it. I agree with that part, but I disagree with you on bringing down apartments. We have some of the nicest apartments in the state. You check with our police, check with the school system. They have less problems with apartments than they do have with a lot of residential area. Flooding, no matter how it develops, we're going to at least not let it flood any more than what it does now. They can't let any more water off than what's going now. So what you're saying is you'd rather for it to be in the future, and I agree with the applicant here, you're looking at a industrial type zoning that's going to be put in this place that probably wouldn't look as nice as the apartments would. But that being said, I'm not for changing the comp plan because there's so many people around it. I think a comp plan means they should have input if we change it from an existing comp plan to another. I want to know what the people that live next door say. And so for that reason, I'm just not for changing a comp plan.
Larry, my question, what's NSU's plans for housing?
So right now, NSU, there's a lot of moving wheels associated with that, and that talking with prior administrations that have been there, one of the big issues that they have is that they don't have any residential facilities nearby, aka what students would use typically would be dorms or apartments. And so NSU needs to have those types of facilities in order to grow and develop. And so that is one issue that they currently have. But the master plan for NSU does call for future growth, future development, potentially a full 4-year university there instead of the split 2. But there are some, as you know, stepping stones that the university must take in order to make that happen.
And they have land, right, that behind them
Mhm.
that they could utilize that for?
They have a lot of land back there.
Yeah, So to the south, that is already level 3, is that right?
Correct.
And so why did we choose to keep this level 6 when we did there had to have been a reason we decided when we did the comprehensive plan.
The
We're gonna
original
keep this-
the original 96 plan
Mhm.
knew that there was going to be a creek turnpike that would be coming through this area. And so whenever that was updated later on in 2012, it reflected this area being utilized for potential commercial use with multifamily. But because there was no specifics out there, it was just, this is what staff at the time, and what the community at the time in 2012 as part of the update reflected on that. And carrying that into the 2019 plan, again, there was no changes that would associate to that plan. And so it just kind of kept it there.
Well, did you have anything else? Okay. One of the things I wanted to mention is the lady spoke about the wildlife and everything. And I'm an Eagle Scout, so, I love to go but here's the problem. You live in town. It doesn't feel like it's in town, but it's in town. And if this developer or this applicant doesn't develop it into apartments or whatever it is, someone will eventually develop this. And it's going to be, it may be next year, it may be 10 years from now, but it will eventually be developed. And the sad part is the deer tend to leave when it's developed. Because it's private land, we can't stop someone from developing it as long as they develop it in a manner consistent with our zoning rules and the comprehensive plan and so forth. Okay. So as much as I love the idyllic nature of what you're saying, I can't stop someone who owns this from eventually developing it in whatever it's allowed to be used. Does that make sense? So if you were to come and say, I don't want you to ever allow this to be developed, I can't legally do that. They have a right to develop their land as long as it's consistent. And right now, if someone was so inclined, they could develop this to be all light industrial, which means storage buildings, it could be stores, it can be retail, it could be
Office warehouse.
and which in itself will bring traffic and so on. So I tend to
But it
follow
also can be regional employment commercial doesn't mean just light industrial. It
right.
could
No,
be
I'm just
other
saying it
things
could be,
besides
but
that.
it could be any number of those things. It won't be residential, but it could be anything essentially that's
Right.
commercial, light industrial or below. So I tend to be like Councilman Parks. I don't like comprehensive plan amendments because for the same reasons. But my only concern is that what you end up with, if we don't amend it, you could end up with something that's even less palatable than what you're concerned with. And by requiring PUDs and things, it allows us to have a little more control over what that would be versus if it's just straight zoning. They can do as long as it's compliant with zoning, they can do whatever they want to with the property. Oh, I'm sorry. It was referenced earlier and I meant to,
It's a mistake.
Larry, could you explain that? 'Cause
Yeah.
you'll do a better job than I will.
Not a problem. PUD stands for Planned Unit Development, which is basically creating its own district plan for that site. It creates a master plan. We currently have a little over 300 within the city of Broken Arrow. I know that sounds a lot, but in comparison to our neighbors to the west of us, it's actually exceptionally low in comparison of land area size.
And it gives us more control over what
Yes, we get.
aesthetically and
It becomes essentially a negotiation process that we go through. The applicant could move forward with the process of standard zoning, which has a standard, but the PUD allows for council to work with the applicant on creating higher standards or implementing higher standards through that application process.
As you heard him say, we have, most of our apartments are PUDs,
Yeah.
which we can design it how we want it.
Correct.
have
And-
more trees, et cetera.
And the only reason I make the comments about is no matter what we decide tonight, eventually this will be developed. And it'll be developed either as light industrial or commercial, or it'll be developed as residential, but it will eventually be developed. That's just the nature of it. So those hoping to keep development away, I don't have the power to do that. But so tonight the only issue is, do we allow the comprehensive plan to be amended to allow for a portion to be residential, and not necessarily high density. I think the applicant said it could encompass anything that's available in level 3. That's the question. And that's the only question before us tonight is
And it sounds as if he's willing to listen to the residents and see what options would be best.
And I wouldn't mind the changing of the comp plan as much if I was guaranteed exactly what was going in there too. So I don't like leaving it wide open.
I know from experience, I just moved into a new home and it was all woods behind my house. And I sit here every council meeting and deal with issues like this. So I knew it was going to be developed at some point and was told it'd be 3 to 5 years. And it was 3 months after I moved in and I lost all my woods and my deer and my. I'm still a little heartbroken over that, but
I live
I
in
knew
the
it was coming. It just, I didn't have enough time to enjoy what I had behind me. So
I live in a neighborhood that I'm just one block off of a beautiful field that there's already development happening around it. I anticipate in the next year or so. And yes, my realtor did tell me it was going to stay a green belt from perpetuity, but it wasn't true.
No.
It rarely is, unfortunately.
Is the land to the south still owned by ODOT?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. And the vast majority of it is floodplain currently, just because there's about 3 or 4 different tributaries that flow into that creek that then flow off to the east.
So it probably won't ever be developed.
It will be difficult to develop. I'm not, again, never want to say never, but it would be difficult.
But there's still enough where could be my mind just went blank. The
Road.
road goes, yeah, that road.
Just
that goes
like,
next to it.
just like we have on other projects throughout the
Okay.
city where we cross, over by Target and everywhere, we have wetlands and bridges that cross them as well. It's just, it becomes more of a area that surrounds it undevelopable, but we are able to cross it.
When and if this is denied, and then somebody comes in and wants to put anything that falls underneath that comp plan, then they have the right to do it. And it's hard then for us to deny them anything that goes in that area.
Mhm.
Once they meet the obligation of the comp
they
plan.
can do.
I mean, that's the thing. They could come up and put big barbed wire fences and a grow facility and back up to, and it would be
Yes.
within the.
Yes, it is. IL zoning does allow growing facilities within our zoning code.
Right.
And then I always play the neutral party, as is my role in staff. It's just through the PUD process, we're able to lock it down to not just development standards, but also uses that would be permissible and not permissible in that area.
This is a tough one just because
The planning commission voted 5-0 in favor.
Correct.
So we're saying that the teal is most likely, I mean, it's not designed, but most likely because of just the nature of it is drainage
Mhm.
or detention. And then the blue is
That's where the creek that runs through it.
a creek. Okay. So it would just be
Quite a bit of buffer
the
between.
yellow that
Yeah.
would be backing up to them. And
Mhm.
that would stay level 6.
Correct. Yeah, the only change to proposed tonight is the
Purple.
purplish pink.
This is hard.
well, and boy, it's a tough one because no matter what decision we make, it's not going to allow the surrounding neighborhood to avoid the eventual
The
increase of
development.
traffic and development. And I know that ideally that's what they want us to do, is just not allow development at all. And I can't. I mean, there's no way we legally
We don't
can
own it.
allow it.
Yeah.
But
We can't.
as far as this tonight, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Any other questions for me?
No. Can you just stand there for a
Yes,
second?
I
I'm just kidding. You can
We,
sit down.
we need to
People are,
think.
we have questions from the audience. We can't take
Just
any.
keep being in the way.
Yeah, we can't take from the audience. Yeah. Okay.
Those of you who have additional questions or comments, we've established a series of rules to govern our meetings so that they don't get out of hand and we don't. So that's why if you're saying, well, I want to add something else, our rules don't allow us to. If we break our own rules, we're creating future challenges. But we do appreciate everything you've had to say. And I appreciate everything that's been said because I know anytime you're looking at an adjoining lot, changing the nature of the lot, it's scary, especially when you've invested
So,
your interest
so
in
what
it.
can we do if we, I mean, because I'm leaning toward voting no because I don't want to vote yes because I don't know. And I don't feel comfortable voting yes when I'm just
Not
so
aware.
like, since I'm normally like yes or no. And so if it's not a yes, then it's a no. So what can we ask the applicant to do to come back and make us more comfortable with this? Like,
I would say at this stage, there isn't anything, as this is just a comprehensive plan amendment.
right.
And that if council does go with staff's recommendation, planning commission recommendation, and includes the PUD requirement as a part of rezoning, then that requires the applicant to come back
Okay.
and make those changes, updates, whatever is needed for the development to move forward. That is the document that you utilize in order to make that happen.
Well, see, and that was my thought process was tonight, there's really, other than this, that's all we're voting on. So we could,
But it's not, that's all, because, I mean, that's all we're voting on, but we are voting on a comprehensive plan change, which
Right.
means this is going to be there. I mean,
Well,
but you make it
so-
contingent upon if you do anything. I'm feeling the same
No,
way you and
what-
Councilman Parks are, but if you did anything, making it contingent upon future action where it's not changed unless future action is fulfilled.
And an additional
sense?
action step that you could take is to require that the applicant move forward with the PUD or rezoning request within the next 2 years. So that means if it does not happen, if it does not come forward and council does not approve the PUD and rezoning within the next 2 years, then it defaults back to the current comp plan, which is level 6. So that would be a protection mechanism that could be put in place. So that
well, it's
forces.
not really the timeline. It's more what they're doing.
I get that, but that's the thing is that because we don't have that PUD process yet here, it's, it could hang out there
Right.
forever, is that you could put that 2-year process in place, therefore bring an applicant forward to do that.
Um,
Well, I still haven't changed my mind. I disagree with the citizens that spoke. I think if I lived there, I would be in favor of that because I know what kind of apartments. But in the same breath, I respect their feeling and that comp plan, that's a big change for the comp plan. And I voted for changes before, but usually the surrounding property owners were kind of in agreement with it. But this way, they're speaking and they're so much opposed to it. I feel like they need to have part ownership in what's decided. And so that's why I would vote in opposition, is because even though I think it would be better, they don't, and I think they should have a say.
Yeah.
You don't agree with that, Laurie?
No
Well,
comment.
the other thing is we have
Same
a
partial.
lot of apartment complexes that are in the middle of being built and that have already been approved all over our city, a lot that are approved and just haven't been built yet. So, and other multifamily. So,
I understand the applicant's statement. The applicant's concern is I don't want to invest a lot of money in designing something, a PUD, and bring it to you with the proposed change then. I think that's the comfort level that that the vice mayor talks about, is if we knew more, we might have a better comfort level with this.
Mhm.
And I understand that's the catch-22 is I don't want to spend a lot of money, understandably, to develop a plan that you may or may not approve. I think this council, though, that's sort of the direction that we're needing to give you is, I don't know that tonight's a firm no, but we need to know more before we could approve something like this. And that's the sense I'm getting.
So so we can either make a motion to deny or they can pull the application or is
Either
it?
way, I mean, if you vote to deny or he pulls the application, it still starts the process all
Okay.
over again.
What if it dies for lack of a motion?
Then it dies.
Let's see, I'll make a motion that we deny BACP 185.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion's denied. Thank you, Larry.
Sorry, I didn't agree with that, but I have a right.
All right, item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of comp dash 000165-2022 comp plan change for 101st and County Line. Larry again.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, comp plan amendment that is before you is a request to change the comprehensive plan designation of approximately 4.57 acres of 21.8 acres from level 4 to level 2. The remainder of the 21.8 acres is already level 2. The property is located west of the southwest corner of Omaha and Elm. The developer would like to construct a small lot, single-family detached residential development on the tract. There are 2 existing duplexes on the west side of the property, which are proposed to be left alone. Additionally, the city of Broken Arrow does have a water tower to the east. The site was originally part of PUD 58 Green Country Villa, an 80-acre planned senior housing development that never materialized. In the special meeting that the Planning Commission held on September 29, 2022, staff recommended that this comp plan amendment be approved. One neighboring resident spoke in opposition to this item, citing traffic concerns. One resident signed in support of this item but did not wish to speak.
I don't think this is the right
I'm like
one.
confused.
Oh, am I?
Well, no, you're on the right one, but
No,
this
well, you're on F and we were on E.
9E.
E.
Sorry.
Sounded
wait,
good.
F
that's-
first.
I'm all right.
No, this is E.
E.
He was showing us F.
Oh,
I
okay.
know,
so-
that's what I'm saying. He's
I was
talking about
lost.
F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this is E.
E is a 1.84 acres, and the other thing that was being shown to us was not,
Okay.
was a lot more
Was
than
21,
1.84 acres.
21
Yeah.
acres.
Thank you.
This is actually
165.
in a similarly
Sorry.
located to
There we
the
go.
neighborhood that we're,
My apologies.
Okay.
This is a request to change the comprehensive plan on the other side of this neighborhood in this area from level 1 to level 4 on 1.48 acres located on the east and the southwest corner of New Orleans Street. Applicant is interested in developing the property for commercial uses and intends to rezone the property for CG pending approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. This was reviewed by Planning Commission on September 22nd. One resident spoke in opposition during the public session on this item. That one resident was in opposition but did not wish to speak. The concerns raised included current and future stormwater drainage from the property onto the neighboring properties. Staff recommended that this comp plan amendment be approved, subject to the property being platted. The Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 per staff recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So we just approved the commercial part of this, right? Didn't we just talk about this?
The rezoning
The
portion of it,
rezoning.
yes.
Oh, that's what it was.
That is
Okay.
where it's currently read right now. That's the portion that you approved of rezoning for on a portion of that. This is on the other side.
Okay.
That road, 194th, is not all the way through as indicated on this map. It actually dead ends right into the commercial area. And so the remainder of the tract, which is open, is requested to be changed for level 4 commercial use.
So we just approved that to the west, is that correct?
Correct.
what's the plan?
Future commercial development.
I know, but we don't know what that is. I mean,
And what about the road? Because we talked about that in the last meeting. So what happens with that road? Because I
It will need to
would
go
think
through
that's,
You'll need to go through the vacation process in
Okay.
order for it, and that will go through the district courts as a part of that.
So it'll be developed.
So it would be, so they're planning to close the road and develop it as one track.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
They have to go through a
Okay.
friendly lawsuit, that kind of thing.
No, yeah, I've done many of those. Okay, so that makes more sense. I was
Yep.
thinking it was divided up, so, okay.
Is there anybody here? We have one to speak in favor.
Okay.
No, in opposition. Oh, gosh.
Is the applicant here?
I believe so, yes.
You want the applicant?
Yes.
This application, I know it doesn't feel like this, but this is really almost a cleanup for some. So this was annexed as commercial. It's actually platted named as commercial. When the comprehensive plan came in, it looked at that street as a truly viable street that would go through, and then designated that as, hey, this is adjacent parcels. But this was a AC zoning and on annexation, and the parcel as it sits, the creek creates the natural barrier from a development standpoint. Trying to go in and tuck in a residential parcel behind what's already C zoned and what the comp plan doesn't make just sense from a development standpoint. And the southwest corner of the existing zoning is already in the development process now, and there's a detention facility proposed along the southern boundary as part of that. So there's still a relatively small portion that will abut any adjoining commercial lot or residential lot to the south. This is when the property was platted, this is really bringing the plan into conformance with the original plans at the time of plat.
And this is under 2 acres, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you say it's time is platted as Wagner County and.
And it's,
and
yeah,
annexed
and
in.
the name of it is, and I can't, forgive me for not, I don't remember the subdivision name, but they actually replatted it as the same name as a subdivision, commercial.
Okay.
And then it's commercial lots, and it was a commercial zoning in the county, but whenever it comes into the city, it goes to an A zoning and annex zoning. So we had to go through that process. And honestly, we really didn't even realize it. Just because it's so intuitively, we believe that it would, hey, this is just really cleaning up a commercial zoning. And then whenever we went through the process, we realized the comprehensive plan was not really conforming with the original uses proposed.
Is it raw land now?
Yes, sir. But it is, to be very clear, there is one parcel that I think that to the south that is actually abutted by this. The creek makes a pretty substantial buffer from everything to the east, and the majority of that is a detention facility as currently proposed in the already existing development plan.
So.
Do you have
no one's gonna
intentions
be
for this
building.
piece?
There is some commercial interest on the hard corner. The rest of it is just trying to conform it so that you don't leave these remnant parcels that we can't do anything with. It's trying to be mindful of that. It's really tricky whenever some of the historic thought process doesn't come across, and then, that makes all the sense in the world looking at the plan as it sits today. But then when you look at the facts on the ground of there's a street that the neighborhood has no interest in seeing continued on, and there's a big natural green space buffer that's not going to go away to the east.
Mhm.
Commercial is really the right use for that in this particular application.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Scott Smilenack. Say it right that time.
It's okay. We're good.
I try. I try.
I didn't come up with it. No.
Hey, my last name's Wimpy, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually live where the curvature of the plot is. The property on the other side of the creek to the east is me. And I don't care what he builds there. I don't care. Because I understand change happens. I got that. What I do care about is, as I told you, it floods. And I'm the third house from 101st going south. And during the planning meetings, the applicant was speaking about putting a culvert along the property line, which would effectively point that culvert at my house. There is when the planning commission addressed it, and the applicant said that he was going to put the culvert below the water line. Here's the problem. His side of the creek is about 10 to 12 feet above my side of the creek. Right now, and mine has a gradual, so he's up here, I'm here, and I have a gradual slope, and then there's my house. Well, water coming out of a 3-foot culvert is moving a lot faster than water going across grass, through tree, whatever. So my concern is that water coming out of there diverts, I'm not talking about during a minor rain, but like 6 inches, 8 inches, starts to divert more of that water coming out of the Boy Scout camp at my house. I understand. Okay, so I understand things have to progress. I got that. Well, when you tell me you're going to put it below the water line, that really doesn't mean anything. If you're 10 feet above me, what does that mean? Are you going to dig 8 feet down and put the culvert at an angle? Are you going to angle the culvert so it's going with the water? He really didn't have answers for that. And it may be too soon. But as I spoke about earlier, you're getting water in that overflow. It's not a creek. It's not a creek. It's an overflow. It's not a creek. So you're getting water backing up from Indian Springs. So there's already water issues, and that culvert could present a huge problem to me personally. Now they told the applicant, they being the planning commission, to slow the water down. I don't know what that means. How do you slow the water down coming out of a culvert? I'm not a hydro engineer. I just think that's a little odd. And the applicant really didn't have a response other than the water line issue. Currently, there's about 1 foot of water, 2 feet of water in it. Is that the water line we're talking about? Or are we talking about when there's water on my back porch, then it's below the water line? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask a question. Thank you, sir. No matter what happens, I mean, no person can do something that would impact the water of another person. And if they did, there'd be liability for same, correct?
Correct.
I mean, right. So nothing, if any adjoining owner of property does something to alter the flow of water that impacts you negatively, you have a right to address that. Legally, you do. But if they were going to build something, they'd have to show that what they did not impact negatively the neighbors, correct?
Yes, that is what our ordinance does say, is that there cannot be any detrimental impact to any surrounding property owners.
So, I mean, legally, there can't be. The ordinance says that, and you would have rights as well as the city would have to enforce its ordinance. So, I mean, I understand your concern, but we've passed ordinances and there are legal requirements that address what you're saying.
Who's going to enforce it? I've called the planning office and.
Can you come up front, please?
Yes, sure. No,
So real quick, we'll do, yeah, and we'll just let you know that there'll be studies done, right? And if a culvert doesn't work, then he has to do something that does work, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. First off, I'm not familiar with this drainage problem. I have already emailed Mr. Schwab, the Assistant City Manager, and asked Kim and Ethan to get with Curtis and get his contact information and then make appointment, because when you make statements that there's a problem and it's not your problem and it's the city's problem, I want to know, because number one, if it is, the city does have some responsibility. We do have.
Thank you.
Well,
we don't know.
I don't know that it's the city's problem. There are a lot of problems in this community that are drainage that are purely private property problems, and residents want them to become the city's problem to take care of. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is that, let me finish. is that we have Proposition 6 money that when there is a problem that is in public and private, we have the ability to go in and make improvements. The voters approved that in 2018. I think that's a propositions council will probably carry forward because of how beneficial it is. If the city is responsible in some way, then we need to get it on a to-do list to look at and make the appropriate improvements.
And
But I don't
Councilor Parks
know.
and I both serve on that drainage committee, so
Okay.
we would take a look at that.
No one's called my office about this problem, and I don't know about a 50-foot tree and whether it's on your property or my property. I just have to look at it, and I assure council, Mr. Schwab will look at it and we'll get an answer. Now, to answer your question, Mayor, about development, you're exactly right. If there are drainage concerns in that area right now, if there's going to be any development, the planning office and the engineering office are going to do the studies that will determine what type of drainage improvements be necessary to ensure that what is happening now is not exacerbated in terms of additional water in those adjacent properties.
And that's part of the permitting process.
That's exactly right.
You're not going to get a permit to build without being able to show that what you build will not impact.
Now, we have a half a dozen people that have certified floodplain managers in this organization approximately. So I'm quite sure that we're not going to impact those that are around it as a result of development.
We just wanted to let you
I
know
have a
that.
question. Question to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
And you made a comment on the other one also. How do you, you said that water's backing up from Indian Springs. Are you saying that Indian Springs, the water's backing up from Indian Springs to this area here?
That's what we're told, yes.
Well, Indian Springs is about 4 miles to the
I
south.
know, you're 100% accurate that, Mr. Parks, yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't think it's backing up from
Well,
Indian Springs.
Okay.
It might be backing up. I'm not saying that, but it can't back up from Indian Springs because it's a lot of feet difference between here and there.
At 130, again, I'm just.
Okay.
There are multiple issues with drainage, whirlpools.
Thank you. So that's
Okay.
exactly what we're saying. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Assistant City Manager Kenny Schwab has a statement he wants to make real quick.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the main stem of Broken Arrow Creek. The city of Broken Arrow does have a study on it. We actually performed it a few years ago. Indian Springs does not impact this stem of Broken Arrow Creek. Arrow Springs does.
Okay.
Arrow Springs is a subdivision
That's
immediately
different.
south.
Yeah.
We've actually looked at trying to buy out homes. And if I'm not mistaken, we may actually have some money in the 2018 bond to try to address some.
Okay.
This is a major flooding area, but we do have some studies. We've actually held some public meetings in the past. I'll be more than happy to meet with the homeowners again and address that.
I'm not suggesting the city take full responsibility. I'm just saying either A, take responsibility for some of the runoff, or B, do what we can do to stop burdening
Yeah.
an already big issue.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Thank
your
you.
point's well taken,
It'll be addressed.
and I want Kenny to come out and look because we recognize there may be some issues, and there are, then let us take a look what we can do to help. But I can assure you that if there's going to be development, is that it's going to be addressed. That's what I can assure everyone here is you just look at the quality of how thorough we are with the developments, and sometimes things are inherited and we try to address those, and that's what we've done. So I have no concerns that my folks are going to address any future development and there's not going to be any water on anybody's property.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Kenny,
Thank you.
this is another one of our neighborhoods we inherited from Wagner County, is it not?
That is absolutely correct. When the turnpike went in around 2000, 2001, it's split the fence line from Coweta and we annexed it in. It was developed probably in the early 70s. I think somebody said something 73 in the home. I actually lived there and had a home of 1974. Broken Arrow Creek has always had a problem. It was developed under Wagner County standards that were probably pre-1970. So
So-
you're correct.
We're, part of the challenge, is we inherited this when it was annexed in. And so now Broken Arrow City is trying to fix a problem that was created by a different level of planning requirements from the county. So bear with us as we continue to try to fix it because
But
it's.
I would add, a lot of these citizens did come out and strong vote on the bond because there was some monies here to try to address. So
So,
appreciate that.
I mean, all the flooding issues are definitely, we're aware and we don't like it any more than you do, trust me.
Well said.
Okay. I did want to point, someone mentioned that a lady had built her home in 73 and said 50 years. Don't move that quick. I was born in 73. I'm 49. Don't push me past any faster than you have to.
Yes. Okay. So
I'd
do we
make
have
a motion, we approve comp 0000165-2022. As per staff's recommendation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
You can push.
Oh, yeah, damn. It missed it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. All right, item 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of comp dash 001157 or 157-2022 comp plan change for Ironwood, 21.80 acres, level 2 and level 4 to level 2.
Can you make those shorter? I mean, what happened? That one up there was BACP and number, and these are,
This is a new software package that we had that you,
oh,
the
I'm,
council so generously authorized us to implement a couple of
I'm
years ago.
excited about
And
that.
so it is now, we're now into the new numbers.
Okay,
I just want to remind you, there's 4 comprehensive plan amendments on tonight's agenda.
Well, and to answer that in particular is that because anything less than a quarter of an acre, or excuse me, anything less than 40 acres, people or applicants can only apply 4 times a year.
Right.
And that is the reason why you're seeing so many this evening. This comprehensive plan amendment is for a change of 4.57 acres of 21.8 acres from level 4 to level 2 for future single-family type home development. Developer would like to construct single-family detached residential development within this area. There are 2 existing duplexes that are on the west side of the property, which are proposed to be left alone. Additionally, the city of Broken Arrow does have and has constructed a 5 million gallon water storage tank facility on the east side of the property. This site was originally part of PUD 58 Green Country Villa, an 80-acre planned senior housing development that never materialized. In a special meeting of the Planning Commission held on September 29, 2022, staff recommended that this comprehensive plan amendment be approved. One neighboring resident spoke in opposition to this item, citing traffic concerns. One resident signed in support of this item, but chose not to speak. Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 of this comprehensive plan amendment as recommended by staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
do you guys have any questions?
So it's not going to be duplexes. It is going to be single family. They're
That
just,
is
they
what
have
is-
to put in the duplex thing or whatever.
Well, the
That was
duplexes are going to be left alone.
Okay.
So, yeah. So they're already zoned, they're already in
They're already
place.
there.
But the remainder of the tract is undeveloped. And at the time, this is North Elm Place.
Mhm.
When this was originally developed out, we didn't have Elm Street in place.
Okay.
And so it was not
The
known
corridor, yeah.
if the elm would actually come all the way through here and this be the primary. That's the reason why it was left as level 4 originally in the 99 plan and continuation to move forward.
My understanding is they were looking at doing RS4 in this
Correct.
area, which is consistent with the surround.
Which is consistent with, yes, because the reserves at Battle Creek are on the other side, and that's the typical size of lots that they have
Okay.
is level 4
All right.
type, or RS4 type lots.
What will happen on that corner? On that north?
On the hill.
Is that the
The,
green belt? Will it
that's
just
where the
remain
hill
that?
goes like this,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So nothing.
so nothing.
Okay.
Well,
It would be
again,
impractical to build at this
it
point.
would be extremely, as I always say, with time and money, anything is possible. Who knows? But most likely nothing.
Did we get those things worked out you talked to me about? When this development up there about access?
Yeah, there, whenever this goes through the plating process, they will be dedicating. Right now, our tank sits on an easement. They'll be required to move forward with the dedication and then provide access to our tank. Sorry,
Thank you, Larry.
didn't mean to
So
Yeah.
look
it
blankly.
won't impact our use of
Correct.
that land. Okay.
So when we widen 51st Street someday, 10 years from now or whatever,
Yes.
whatever what, that is right on the hill. So will
Mhm.
that affect,
They will be required to dedicate the right of way for us to
Okay,
actually widen it.
'cause
And so,
will widen and kind of level
Mm-hmm.
that out, I'm imagining?
It's pretty steep. We might have to build
It's
a wall.
very steep. No walls. We're not building any more
No
walls
more
in this
walls.
city. Make a note of that. I was just curious if that's
yeah, they'll
would be affected.
And does the entrance in off of, that would be on Elm,
correct.
Is
Off of
that-
Elm Place.
is it, like, how is it, I don't know, like, with the
Renovate
other,
area.
the apartments that are across the street?
It is by the
Are they
12.
lined up or
Well.
Oh, the
can you bring
apartments
up
are
the
way down here.
aerial?
they're way down there?
Yeah.
They're down
There-
here.
There you go. See, right now, there's already a pre-existing drive there,
Mhm.
and so they would just continue to utilize it. It's better
Oh,
Yeah,
than,
that street is already
otherwise
there.
it would affect the duplexes that are currently in
Oh, so that
place.
doesn't go onto
Mm-mm.
Elm at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
You
slope.
mean-
There's a huge slope.
Yeah.
That Elm? No, it goes on to Elm Place and not Elm Avenue.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is that Elm, this isn't Elm Place over
That
here?
hu- that south
That's
161st
Elm Place.
is the,
The portion of the new road that we built, I say new, it's new to me.
Right.
Some 15 years ago, that's
Right.
Elm Avenue because it goes off of, it's not right on the
Gotcha.
section line.
Right.
Yeah, we're-
That Elm Place is the one that winds around,
Correct.
but it's actually how Elm would have gone naturally had we not built it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the section line is basically the eastern property line is the original section line.
It doesn't matter that I've called this Elm Place all the time, does it?
I will not knock you for it,
Don't
Counselor.
say anything to
and I
anybody.
call it Elm Corridor, so. Or
Smart.
Speedway.
Yeah.
Elm
the Speedway.
Speedway.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in
Is there
opposition?
anybody here to speak?
We have one to speak in favor, so we'll allow.
Oh.
Ricky Strain.
And does the
Do you want the applicant? Do you want-
Okay. Yeah,
This is weird. Someone speaking in favor.
How you
Good
doing?
evening, everybody. I'm here on behalf of Richie Strain, Richie, and everybody makes that mistake, on behalf of the reserve at Battle Creek HOA. And since the last time that we met here, a couple of weeks ago, I've spoken with our board members on our HOA and some of the residents. And really the only thing that has kind of come to light is some of the concern that at a later time that this tract of land that's been packaged to us, and the way it's been packaged to us as of right now is a dream come true. We couldn't ask for a better thing to fit that tract of land right there. A retirement community, houses consistent with ours, but there has been a little bit of chatter about it at a future time being moved to maybe RD or RM. And I guess what our concern is that something that is possible to happen with that land in the future?
I mean, they could always come to us, but that's
Right.
not what's before us tonight.
Right.
So,
So the way that it's packaged right now, in all likelihood, is exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
Because, I figured out that what it starts as generally will be the end result. So, and I just wanted to address that and go on record,
Sure.
and bring that. But other than that, the way that it's packaged now, again, we're 100% for. We'll be happy campers if that's what goes in
Okay.
there. So,
all right.
and that's really all I had to say. So, any
Okay.
questions on that or,
No, sir.
Thank you.
No.
okay. all
Thank
right,
you, sir.
Thank you.
Nice to see you in person.
I know.
That's right,
On
Richie.
Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Evening.
Nathan Cross, 2 West Second Street, Suite 700, Tulsa. Two things have happened this evening that don't normally happen. One, the room cleared out before I got to talk. That doesn't happen very often.
Nope.
And then I had someone speak in favor, which I As Mr. Curtis said, what we're talking about here is really bringing a small piece of commercial in line with the surrounding area to be level 2. It's maybe at one point in time in the history of Broken Arrow, there was a vision for this to be some level of a commercial hard corner or a commercial node. It's really mid-mile, frankly, at this point. And as I think one of the comments that was made at the Planning Commission, if I remember right, is there would be a real concern about traffic entering and exiting out of a commercial development directly onto Omaha because of the hill to the east and the vision issues. Obviously, what we're here tonight to talk about is the comp plan and the comp plan only, and the plan that you've seen would follow But your point in the earlier case about lack of clarity is understood and well taken. And you've seen our plan. It was shown to you, our conceptual plan that was shown to you a few minutes ago. Everything would be oriented internally. And so it would all exit onto, I think, Elm Place, although we maybe call it Ironwood. Is that what that says? So maybe I'm not sure what that is, why that's called that. I know the earlier map called it Elm Place. But it would all, as you guys saw at the plan, orient in that direction. As Mr. Spurgeon commented on and Mr. Curtis commented on, that the water tower access will obviously be preserved. The city currently has the right to access it. That's not going to change. Even if we wanted to change that, I'm not sure that we could because the easement is there. So we're simply really asking to take this 4.5 acres and make it conform with the surrounding comp plan level of all of the abutting properties. And I'll take any questions you might have.
Does have any questions?
Make a motion to approve comp plan the amendment to comp plan 157-2022.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
It was easy, wasn't it?
Thank you, Counselors.
Okay, thank you. Item 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible denial of comp 170-2022, comprehensive change to Oakmont Hills, 29 acres, level 3, level 4, and Greenway floodplain to increased level 3, decreased level 4. Larry.
I think, Mayor, you said it just perfectly right there. This comprehensive plan amendment came before Planning Commission back on September 29th as a request to change essentially what is currently level 3 and level 4 to decrease the level 4 portion of the property and to increase it to increase that portion of it to level 3. Applicant is interested in developing the property for commercial and residential uses and intends to rezone the property to CG and RS3 with a PUD. The area designated as level 4 and Greenway floodplain is significantly encumbered by floodplain on the eastern portion of the property. The proposed modification reduces the level 4 area by more than 50%, further reducing the potential for commercial development. In a special Planning Commission meeting held on September 29, 2022, staff recommended that the comprehensive plan amendment be denied based upon the existing floodplain and significant loss of potential commercial development. 10 neighboring residents spoke to this item, mostly in opposition to any development. The Planning Commission recommended denial of the comp plan by a vote of 5-0 per staff recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So they're basically wanting to reduce the commercial portion by 5 acres, right? Because it's 10 acres.
It's
on the
roughly 10
corner.
acres, so yeah.
But half of that is floodplain anyway.
Right, so essentially you're taking this down from what would have been, 7.5 developable commercial area to 5.
5. Okay. And then why?
No, you're taking it
I mean,
to
It's
basically
2.5, 7.5, 7.5 to
Right.
2.5. Sorry, can't do math.
And your recommendation is denial?
Denied because it's now going to be all residential and no commercial there on the corner. The reason why staff, in addition, if you look at this intersection on the east side of the property, there is no future commercial potential or even residential due to the tributary of the creek that's there. So where we typically have our Lewis levels on all 4 corners having commercial, higher density residential, and then regular residential, you're now limited to 2 sides, not 4. So staff was very concerned that not only are we already halfway there, gone, a continued reduction would be in place. So that was a concern.
Yeah, I think I'm confused about this because it was my understanding that the 10 acres that's in that box, that they were asking for 5 acres to be
So
removed.
the
They are.
red
They are.
is 10 acres, the original red. And what's
This is
being
the
remained
original.
is 5 acres, but only half of that left over is actually developable. So that's really 2.5 acres that could be used for commercial.
I don't.
Could we not?
I don't
Could we
really
not
have a
flip that?
problem with
Yeah.
this.
Could you not? Could it not be 5 acres across the bottom? Could we not that
was the application that was submitted before Planning Commission and staff. We had to we had to base our recommendation off of what was being applied.
Mhm.
You know, we met with them, we provided them with information ahead of time. They chose to move forward with this application. Now, what you have a choice here, as with any decision that comes before you. Either you can reverse the planning commission's recommendation and vote for approval, approve the planning commission's recommendation and deny, or send it back to planning commission for any concerns or thoughts that you would like for them to ponder.
Well, I'd like to hear from the applicant
Right.
because what the mayor was saying is something I was sort of interested in. Couldn't we give them their 5 acre, give them their reduction? Because I mean, I live within a half a mile of this, and look, the commercial viability of this corner is going to take a very long time for it
Yeah.
to become commercially viable. Because I think the east side, as you said, is virtually undevelopable.
Yes.
There's a residence on that hard corner that might be, I'm not even sure it's in the city. Is that in the city limits on the east side?
Portions of it are, portion of it are.
Right, and the road, basically, it's a private road that goes from
Mhm.
east from there. So I'm not saying it would never commercially develop. I'm just wondering how long. Plus, the road coming in winds like this. So I'm not opposed to reducing the commercial. I am interested in hearing the applicant's thoughts on inverting it as the mayor's suggestion was. If that makes sense, changing the reduction.
Is this connecting to another like subdivision that is being built? Okay.
But my understanding is, and again, that the applicants can speak to this, the thought is that this would be RS3, if I'm not mistaken, which is consistent with not the larger lots to the south north, but the neighborhoods that are developing, that have developed around this. That's consistent with what's going there generally. So, I'm not offended by it, but I'd be interested to hear the applicant's thoughts.
Sure.
On that.
That's what he's here.
Madam Mayor, Lou Reynolds, 2727 East 21st Street. At the outset, I would like to clarify something. I think the residents spoke very strongly in favor of this amendment to the comprehensive plan at the last meeting. 2 of the 3 largest property owners in the area showed up, and they both spoke in favor of the comprehensive plan amendment. And then I learned the other large landowner, I believe the gentleman's name's Casey, that he was supportive of this comprehensive plan amendment. So that in this area, by far and away, the owners of 50% of the land, Steve Sneed, Mr. Hillenberg showed up as well, and they were supportive of this. I'm here tonight on behalf of Oakmont Hills, and that's a partnership of Larry Battaglia, Julius Puma, and Steve Wright. Steve Wright's here tonight on behalf of the organization. Steve mentioned to me, and I'd not heard this before, but due to some further discussions that have gone on since the Planning Commission, that the developer would be happy as opposed to having the 5 acres north and south, having the 5 acres that ran east and west. But that's the first I've learned of that. But the thing I do want you to know is overwhelmingly, the neighborhood supports the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay.
And for this. And I wanted to just get into some of the details of that for you all. And as you can see from this exhibit, and we'll go through some aerials that you all have. This is a 3-legged intersection. It will never be 4. And in fact, your major transportation plan that doesn't show it crossing over. So can you put this up on the overhead? So this is your planned transportation plan for this area.
Maybe.
I've got some extras if this won't work. Okay, so here's our intersection. And we have no planned 111th extension to 193rd here to County Line Road. And that in and of itself begets that this is undeserving of a 10-acre commercial node. There are other physical features that if you'll go back to we'll leave this map up for now, and then we can go back and look at the other feature. The next one is to the north of us. Coming out of we're totally surrounded by ranchettes and ranch and 5-10-acre developments on all sides of the road. But at this point, you have to get to the half mile before there's a street coming out of the neighborhood. And that connection, that's Waco. And Waco goes back west, connects up to Vicksburg, and you can get to Elm. You can cross the mile through there. But it's a half mile before any residential traffic can come out and support a business that was here. If you go north to 101st to New Orleans, there's no other streets in that half mile above that. You have to cross New Orleans before there's another residential street coming out. And you have a similar pattern of ranchettes and blocking of traffic up and down this road so that it will never have a road. The previous cases, you heard about Broken Arrow Creek. I believe this is a tributary of Broken Arrow Creek through here. It runs all along the east and curves along coming down 177th. And it's what prohibits development, makes it expensive to cross with the street, introduces waters of the United States, wetlands. Immediately to the west of us, 2 years ago, I had a zoning application on that property. Client had it under contract. We were going to develop it single family, and it's got wetlands and waters of the United States on it. And we couldn't renegotiate it at an agreeable price because it was so hard for the seller to understand that. We're heavily density impacted to the south. When you come on the west side of the street, it's also densely impacted. It's got the same water that comes down through here. It's affected, and it's affected here. We also down at the expressway, it's a turnpike. We don't have on-off ramps. We get the benefit of no traffic to support a commercial purpose. And so the gist of the application is there's not traffic supporting this. There's not going to be traffic supporting this. If you want to flip it, if you want to take it straight up, we left a small, 2.5, 3 acre commercial piece of land there. That could be a quick trip 3. That's not an insignificant piece of commercial property. And yes, where the floodplain is, whether you lay this over or straighten it up, the floodplain is going to be the detention pond. And the commercial property is going to have a detention pond. There's no net loss. If we just built a quick trip on the corner, the detention pond would be there. And we've got to have it to support that. And so you have to look at it. This is one of the few places in the city with a 3-legged intersection. It got the standard 10-acre node in the planning process. I think just because it was intersection, it wasn't looked at and drilled down and reviewed granularly. And we all know that in terms of the race for sales tax is over. You're getting it delivered to your door. Ever Amazon package and multi-channel marketing and all the different things that we're getting saturated with, the demand for commercial property is tremendously down. It's been going down since right before we planned for it, and certainly since 1999. It's had nothing to do with COVID. I mean, the point is our shopping habits have changed to the convenience of having it delivered. And we're surprised at the prices that we get in having it delivered. It's amazing to me. I can have a 50-pound bag of dog food delivered to my front door cheaper than I can go pick it up in my store. And it's great for my wife and I, because I just drag it in when I come home from work. And they don't have porch pirates big enough to run off with it yet. So it's one of those things. It's just hard for me to imagine.
So
Yeah.
your client would be willing to consider changing because I think if commercial does develop, it'll develop along the 111th or Florence, not along.
Yes, sir.
Not along
We would be willing to do that
Lynn Lake.
if that would please council. We certainly would be willing to entertain that. We've tried to compromise in every way on this along the way, and have been rebuffed, and we would certainly do that. So in that spirit, because we were leaving some at the planning commission, they said, why are you leaving any? And we said, it's a great question, you know,
Well,
because,
To be consistent with our comp plan, I
so-
think it makes sense to do that.
so we're happy to flip it.
So Larry, if that was the council's desire,
Mhm.
can we approve that at this level
Mhm.
today, or do we need to send it back for
You can do
consideration?
it today, or that would be reversing the planning commission. I mean, that is what is before you today, is that you can approve it contingent on that change, or deny, or send it back to planning commission.
Just do it today.
I think, yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan change subject to reorientation of the commercial node as reflected by council.
Running east-west.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. Roll call. Motion approved.
Thank you,
sir.
Madam Mayor.
All right, item 9H, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of PUD 159-2022, New Orleans Square Coffee. Larry Curtis.
Yes, this PUD is the first PUD application we have had submitted with our new overlay district that we have in New Orleans Square. I know there is some concern raised that we have adopted an overlay district and already there's a modification, but I hope that I'm able to explain as eloquently as our attorneys as the reason for this application. So this site is on the southwest side of New Orleans Square, and has the UG3 district requirements of 125-foot minimum lot frontage on South Elm Place, a primary street existing in the required location per the regulation plan of the overlay district. The existing parent lot, the one that's requesting to be split, has a frontage of 245.91 feet of lot frontage on South Elm Place. Splitting the lot would require 125 feet of lot frontage, will leave only 120.91 feet of frontage, and would not meet the compliance of the overlay district. So as you can see there, the reason for the shortage for the frontage is because of this dog leg that is from lot 5. Basically, so that's what's creating the nonconformity, is because this portion of 46.2 feet is not fronting directly onto Elm Place.
Where is this exactly?
I'm having a hard time
Can you show
orienting.
the aerial?
I mean, I know like exactly like
So-
between what and what on the, okay, there we go.
So
Okay.
there's the lot there that's being requested to be created.
Is that like where the
So here's
Bayou place is sitting with their food truck? all the time?
the Bayou Place is further south.
Okay,
So this would be north of that.
okay.
So here's McDonald's right there. Then there's the drive. And
It's
then
where all the
there's,
construction equipment's at right now.
correct, that's where the construction,
Okay.
that's where the temporary construction easement is, and that's where the equipment is.
Okay.
So everything else in the overlay district is being left in place. It's just this lot split, the reducing the minimum lot frontage requirement is the only thing that is being modified. All the other requirements are staying in place.
So this doesn't like jog everything, like us making this one change doesn't like make everything like have to
No,
get funky? Like,
so because the road network is still there, it's still all, let me go back over here.
okay,
So we have a road that goes in here on the overlay district, and a road going in through here, and a road going through here. So this lot that's being created out of this is still parallel that proposed road or driveway
mhm.
that is there. So it does not change the layout of the.
Are they wanting to do a drive-through?
They would, but the drive-through would be along the backside of the development, so you wouldn't see it on the front.
Okay, yep. And they would still do like the same type of, the design would
Mhm.
still be in compliance. It's just the
Everything-
frontage.
It's just, instead of the lot being 125 feet wide, that's the only thing, is it's reducing the lot frontage.
Okay.
The applicant has requested, and just letting the council know, is that to table this item to the next council meeting because he was unable to meet to come tonight to talk to you about this. He unfortunately had a shift. He's a Tulsa firefighter and could not get away from his shift in order to be here to talk about the item.
He would like to table it, or what if we're inclined?
He would
What
like
if
to
we're
table
Or if we're
it.
inclined to approve it?
Well, if you're inclined to approve it, then I would definitely, but I'm just letting you know that was what he was submitted, so yes.
I understand. I mean, unless he wants to come and,
I mean, if he wants us to table it, then.
I mean, if he wants to table it so we can explain it, but if we're.
I doubt if he wants us to table it if we're going to approve it.
I would agree with
I
that.
mean, that makes no sense.
I'm
No, I'm-
inclined to approve it, so.
I'm
I-
inclined to question his business
I,
savvy.
again, you know. It would-
Maybe he just wanted to be here.
If you were
But,
to approve it, it would save him 2 weeks in time. But
So this doesn't, because you know what I'm worried about is that this is setting a precedent for every person to come in.
And
It's
that's-
like,
I hope I can sometimes put that to bed, is that every request that comes before you does not set a precedent. It is, just because you did it here doesn't mean you have to do it there. It is a unique situation on every PUD.
Yes, but.
I'm super excited to have like concrete being torn up in a parking lot
Yes.
at New Orleans Square. That would make me so happy.
Yes.
I mean, so it doesn't change the layout. Okay.
It does not change the configuration of the proposed street/drives.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve and
I'll
tell him he
second
should come and say thank you next meeting. He can come speak to us. We would love that. I don't even drink coffee.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Larry, you're still with us.
Yes, ma'am.
9I, consideration, discussion, and possible approval or to appoint one citizen to a Metropolitan Area Planning Commission Exploratory Committee. That is a big committee name.
Yes, so as council is aware, the council did establish, along with Wagner County, a exploratory committee for the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission on the east side of the city. An application has gone through our clerk's office from Johnny Walker, who is interested in serving on the committee, and that is what is before you today. And potentially open to any other nominations if you have any. Just saying.
I actually reached out to Johnny and told him this would be a great one, and to contact his Wagner County commissioner and let him know that he was interested. So
All right.
anyone else have any?
So is the request that we appoint Johnny or Mr. Walker? Okay.
Correct, that is what is before you tonight.
To vote for Johnny Walker. You do drink
Maybe a
that,
Jim
don't you?
Beam will be interested.
And you know
I was gonna say, I know. it
She's
was-
like, I don't drink
Yeah,
coffee,
yeah.
but-
Is Captain
I don't
Morgan
drink
waiting?
coffee.
Captain Morgan, Glenn Fiddick.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'll
Do we have
make
a motion?
To, what is it,
Approve.
approve appointing Johnny Walker to this very long name.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 9J, consideration, discussion, possible appointment of one city council member as alternate member to the MAP Commission Committee.
Same thing here is that in staff's thought, we didn't even really think about a situation where a council member may not be able to attend, Councilor Udi would not be able to attend, if perhaps a alternate could be added to that committee as well. That way they could listen, be a part of the process, but if something were to happen, heaven forbid.
You doubt me?
No, I do not. Not at all, sir. It's just, it would be good to have an alternate.
Well, in that case, unless she would decline, I would nominate the mayor because the balance.
You
Oh,
have somebody?
did you have?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were.
I asked to be on it.
Oh, you
but,
did? Oh, I didn't. Did I
That's
not?
all right.
Well, it wasn't on there
Okay.
specifically, but.
Okay,
yeah.
well, but I didn't give you a chance to speak, and
I know.
the mayor may not.
That's
prefer.
not, that's not unusual, though.
That's true.
I was just saying that when you were put on it, which is great, I have no problem with that. But we do need an alternate, and I served on our planning commission for a number of years, and I think it's extremely important. I can remember back when County Line, the citizens in southern Broken Arrow wanted to do away with everything as far as being in the city to the east of the county line. And I've always pushed that we develop it, but I've always wanted us to be sure and have some control over what's being put in out there. So I'd be glad to serve on that. as
Well,
an alternate.
That's fine.
I would amend my motion to.
Sorry,
nominate-
whoever he was appointing.
No, well, actually, I was concerned. Every time I think of the mayor, I'm thinking she's got so much on her plate, but I also try to be respectful of this but I think you'd be an absolute asset to this.
Well, thank you. I would like to be invited to all the meetings, not just alternate, you know what I mean, to stay at.
I think that's.
And I'll kind of tell you how to vote sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
I'll make the motion to appoint Johnny Parks as
Second.
the alternate.
All right. You have a motion and second. Roll call. You now have a new committee,
Thank
Johnny.
you very much
You're welcome.
for my spare time.
Yes, in your spare time. All right. Let's see. Oh, you're still with us.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Item.
Oh, you're still here.
Review ordinances, 10A, consideration, discussion, and possible
love you,
preview of an ordinance
You guys do.
amending section 5.1 of the Broken Arrow Land Subdivision Code. Larry Curtis.
I know that Councilor Parks is very excited to see this preview ordinance. This is a modification of our land subdivision code, specifically the requirements for lot splits to no longer require that applicants get signatures from our utility companies for their applications to move forward. I believe Councilor Parks can reach personally to this item in the sense of months of waiting for a utility to sign this. This now changes it to where the application will be put on the Technical Advisory Committee agenda, and therefore the utilities will have the ability to provide their thoughts. And if after a period of time they don't provide any, then or if they do not provide any at the time of the TAC meeting, then it simply goes before Planning Commission for approval.
Okay.
It will no longer require applicants to go hunting for our signatures.
I
Yes.
have many
I would-
clients who would appreciate Councilman Parks.
It was kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was really
It
smooth
is.
until
It's a
then.
nightmare.
And there's some I haven't even heard from yet. And we've already got the lot split for a couple of years. Because the city went ahead and said, well, they should have spoke up. And so I said something needed to be changed. So I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept the change, the preview of the ordinance and set for adoption.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ordinances, 11A, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3748, and ordinance amending Chapter 7, business regulations and licenses. Danny Littlefield.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, gentlemen of the council, Mr. Spurgeon. Tonight you have before you ordinance 3748. That's our safe hotelier ordinance that we previewed October 4th last meeting. The ordinance is designed to give hoteliers resources to minimize their calls to police for service. Staff has worked through these issues, held educational meetings with the various hoteliers. We've received very encouraging feedback, and legal department has now put the ordinance into final form and is ready for possible adoption. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions if you have them, or turn that over to appropriate staff.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 3748.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
I just wish Councilor Ford could have been here because I
I
think this was an
know.
important.
And Deputy Chief Bennett.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't want to hear from you, Danny, but
I'd move for the emergency clause.
we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call. Okay. Item 11B, consideration, discussion, and possible, we just did that, so sorry. We're good. All right, item 12, remarks and inquiries by governing body members.
I was excited to attend before this meeting, as were we all. Celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Rose District, a 10-year landmark that only took about 30 to make happen. So I'm very pleased to see that happen. I also am reminded, and the Vice Mayor reminded us this evening at that meeting, that we are celebrating the 120th birthday of the city of Broken Arrow. When the original plat was filed, the by Mr. Fears. I've read that abstract many times. So I'm really glad he did it because we get to have the greatest city in the entire world right here in the middle of Oklahoma. So happy birthday, Broken Arrow.
Thank you.
I will share tonight about the 18th Amendment, which this is kind of funny to me. I'll just read this. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation thereof into or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. So the 18th Amendment was prohibiting alcohol, but thank goodness for the 21st Amendment. The 18th Article of Amendment of the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. So there you go.
But without the 18th, we wouldn't have had Al Capone and those wonderful movies that he's doing.
That's true. That's true.
Speaking of the Constitution, I attended a meeting yesterday, and there was a lady who is from Denmark, and she reminded everyone at the meeting that the United States of America has this thing called the Constitution, which is extremely unique and that it is worth fighting for. And it was just a great reminder that all Americans should be reminded of that. Yes, it is most definitely unique and worth fighting for. So
That's right.
so that, and then I just a reminder that the Rose District is having their wedding show this Saturday from 2 to 6 in the Rose District Plaza. So that should be fun. Get married? Nope. I already did that. I'm good. Maybe we could do some renewal of vows though. Who knows? Okay, remarks from our city manager.
Thank you, members, mayor, members of council. Just a few things. I wanted to give you an update on some road projects that I know are near and dear all of our hearts. The first one is I signed the plans today to go out to bid for 209th, also known as 37th, as Kenny likes to call it. Him and Ethan call it 37th. I call it 209th.
And that I did learn that does not have a third name.
That's
It's
right.
like the only one in our city.
But you're in Broken Arrow, so it's
Yes.
37.
Okay, well, I'm stuck on 209th.
Like,
We are going to be going out to bid for the 7/10 of a mile from 71st to 81st, just a little short of a mile. So that's going to do that first section. And I think we'll have that contract awarded sometime in December, and then work should start sometime in the first, probably February of next year. I'm very excited about that when that's one of those legacy, as Kenny mentioned today, Kenny Schwab, just a few legacy projects that we're trying to get moving forward. And also we're working with the state of Oklahoma about the bid letting for the road widening from 71st to 81st and the replacement of the bridge on County Line Road. And we actually should award, or the state should award that project probably sometime in January, but then their process takes several months, which means work may not start until the summer of 2023. However, that's another legacy project, and it's about a $14 million, Ethan has said. So it's very exciting. Albany from Lynn Lane to County Line Road is also very close to where actually we'll be starting construction on that next year. And then the other one that I'm excited about is I'm pretty sure it's that we are going to award the contract for Washington from Olive to Aspen probably in the first quarter of next year. So these are all major road projects that have a tremendous impact on traffic flow, especially the last couple. So I'm excited to say, and I want to thank Ethan and Travis Small and all of their folks in engineering construction for moving those along. So next year is going to be another busy year. And just two other things. We got a $387,000 grant for Sirens. And I can't underscore how big that is to get that kind of money from the federal government. And it's because of Jamie's efforts and the relationships that he keeps very closely. So thank you, Jamie. I want to thank you for that. I mean, it's 21 new sirens in our community. And what's cool about these sirens is that they're different than what we have now. And so they actually, the distance is a little further, and you can hear from all different directions. So this is state-of-the-art technology, and that was not specifically mentioned. And I want our folks, you're still not going to be hearing, guarantee you're hearing inside. Okay, but 21 new sirens, that's really great. And Also, I just want to reiterate that hotel ordinance that we passed was probably about 2 years of labor and effort by a handful of the police administration to get that done. There were, and Lori Hill,
Lori Hill.
I think Lori may have left, talking to the hoteliers and assuring them this was not punitive. This was something that was necessary to reduce the amount of calls that we get. And those are calls that sometimes can be potentially unsafe for our police officers. And so kudos to all the folks in the chief staff and all of the folks that helped. I would mention Councilmember Ford, who was worked for the city at the time, who was working with Officer Peel, which I think was part of the genesis of that. So I think it's a major victory for our community and our businesses to protect them and keep them the residents or those folks that stay at those places, keep them safe.
Yeah,
So,
and I think the whole process even helped the hotels understand the importance of it. And there were some really positive things that came out of it for them that can help them protect themselves as well. So,
At the Visit Broken Arrow meeting this past week, there are 2 hoteliers who serve on that, or at least one, and she was very complimentary of it and was very pleased that it was moving forward. So I think getting buy-in, as the mayor said, was very important and key to that.
absolutely.
that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you very much.
All right.
And also thank you for the way you deliberate with the public on obviously Larry comes up here more than anybody. And I know you kid with him, but I can tell you is the amount that you deliberate. I don't believe when I can walk away that not feeling anything weren't heard. And I appreciate that very much. And I know the staff does as well.
Thank you. All right, we do have executive session.
Make a
Entertain
motion to take a brief recess to enter Bama and Beta.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes,
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
front of my page.
Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford, Udi,
Here.
Parks,
Here,
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, or awards. No general authority business. Remarks from governing body members? City manager?
I just want to make one point as we start to wind down the hot part of the year is, as council members know, we were working with Wagner County Rural Water 4 to provide them with some water. And those are our citizens. And I want to thank Kenny for helping them and watching our water production, making sure that we weren't at risk in any way, shape, or form. And I think we're going to continue to have conversation with them. They're going to need to work with us. And I just want to let council know we'll continue to have those conversations. And I'm sure that we'll have an update for you at some point. But if anyone asks, we have been providing some water during the hotter times. And to me, I just feel a responsibility. It's not our system, but they're our residents. And so I feel very strongly, I know Kenny does, that we try to do what we can to help them, provided it does not affect our ability to produce water from our plant to service our system. So if anybody asks any questions about that, we are doing what we can to work with them.
Thank you.
Good.
There's no executive session. Entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
The motion and a second. Roll call. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Roll call.
Ford, Udi,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Consent agenda passes. Items 5A, presentation of an economic development update on the Innovation District development. Jennifer Conway.
Thank you. Did you get the updated presentation from Jennifer? That's actually what I'll be speaking.
Scared me. I was like, this is going to be really awkward. I won't be talking about what you're seeing. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. Here to give you a quarterly update on the Innovation District.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. I'll be brief as you have the full report delivered in your packet. But you can go to the next one. Innovation District land, just really for everybody looking who may not still know where this is. We're excited to have that 90 acres in the city's possession. You can go to the next one. I'm going to give a summary today on the EDA Targeted Grant Opportunity Grant Award. And as I've said before, 28 of the communities obtained the award. We had 2 phases, community and site assessment and the leveraging the gap assessment. So I'm going to just talk briefly about the summary of the report that was delivered by the site selection group. Go to the next page. And as the next ones, you do have the full report in your packet. But as just to quickly recap, we had the project alignment and kickoff, our community and site visits with site selection group, which you all actually participated in. They have delivered a site improvement plan to us, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And final stage, we have an action strategy for us delivered. So executive summary in that, we're not going to go over all that because it actually hits. But you'll see there's on one column, there's the strengths. And then on the second column, we have some opportunities of improvement for us, which we'll hit in the next slide. So we're going to review the site analysis and due diligence that was done, the execution, which is the actual RFI and site visit, which that just for those who may not know, an RFI is when we get a request from a business or a site selector about an opportunity. The RFI is the actual document that we deliver to them in response to that. So we did a mock RFI to them and they analyzed that for us, and the target industry analysis as well as a competitive workforce analysis. So hitting on the site, they said that the site showed well. They feel like that obviously with more investment, this is going to attract interest to end users. That the site transportation access is very strong for the development of this, from being access to the turnpike, the widenings of the roads that the city has already invested in, and the plans going forward, as well as proximity to the airport. Our current future quality of life amenities that we talked about, the Liberty Trail is a huge asset to it. And then what we've talked about, the Elam Park development across the street is an incredible asset to this innovation district, as well as what we've talked about, what we want to put in our strategic plan. And there's no significant utility changes that need to happen. The land really is in a great place for us. Some of the challenges we have is we need to complete some of the due diligence documents, which of course we wouldn't normally have them completed at this point. It gives us a checklist to work with the city to get finished. And then a strong map deck that was just a hit on how we gave some recommendations of ways that we can start marketing the land and the property now in our process as we build it out. So we can go to the next one. Our execution, I felt like overall we did really well when we showed. That's a very key, is if you're not clicking with the community when you're there and they're showing well. We had lunch in the Rose District. We drove them around and showed them our other assets that would support the Innovation District. They felt good about that. Very impressed by our stakeholders that participated in our roundtables. The workforce and education was packed, as well as all of the utility providers in the city, as well as our leadership. So there was 3 separate meetings, stakeholder meetings, that they were very impressed with that involvement. And then they really, as I said, the Rose District was a great set. We showed well. Some of the opportunities for improvement, we had just continuing pieces in the RFI response, which will be developed as we go through this process. And then really creating a strategy for seeing the actual site. So we have an investment in some signage, constantly mowing a piece of the property so that it can kind of be the show place where we stop when we really get in this to kind of stop and show that vision of the property, not just on paper. And the next one. This is just talking about the target industry analysis. That was a huge key part of this grant that was important to us. So these are the things that they utilize in analyzing that growth, wage, and tax base, what was complementary to what we already had, but also allowed for us to diversify, and also taking in consideration the site characteristics. And then also just a pragmatic common sense strategy. What can you guys really do in this shorter period of time? As I've talked about and visited with each of you individually, the Innovation District, we're doing something that's never been done before. As I talked through, Innovation District has never been built from the ground up and never been a greenfield development. So with that in mind, we have both the opportunities and the challenges to be able to accomplish the goals of a chicken or the egg. How do we build a workforce pipeline when we don't know who we have yet? So, or do we have it yet and then build that workforce pipeline? So we're really in that process right now. I can go to the next one. So they took all of the clusters, they looked at and analyzed it and put it through their little special magical funnel that we have listed here, and came out with our industrial focus. So target industries that came up to, the next one, is basic one, no shocker here, a strong alignment with manufacturing. Really, when you talk about manufacturing, though, we're talking about advanced manufacturing, clean manufacturing, technology manufacturing. So think of a nice compact building that's not, it's kind of a Bluebell versus an Access Optics, if he kind of gives you that idea. And so because of our current existing workforce and our school systems and our strengths, advanced manufacturing is a strong. Long-term potential in life sciences. We also asked them to analyze technology projects, so really focusing on high tech. They said that this one was interesting, as we have opportunity as we're building up the school system in that area, but it's not strong yet. And also we're not top of mind for attracting tech talent. So they compared us against Dallas, Austin, some Kansas City, and then Oklahoma City, and Waco. And so obviously when you're looking at somewhere like Austin, that's not just the talent you can create, it's a talent you have today. So in that respect, that's why it says it's a little tough right now, but there is potential as we build that pipeline and build something like the Innovation District that is more attractive to those types of talent attraction. So that's the summary of the target industries. And then our competitive assessment, which is just taken in, that was, I already kind of mentioned into that, strong value proposition on advanced manufacturing. And that's very much too, because we're a very business-friendly, cost-effective place to do business as a manufacturer. So that makes us, and our cost of living is really helpful. We're a little less competitive on life sciences because of right now we don't have the strong research component that has to do with that, but that's definitely an opportunity. We do know some of our partners in the region are already developing life sciences corridors, so we need to determine if that would be our focus. Strong focus on engineering, we've talked about that. And so can we really focus on on businesses that utilize engineering, which we already have a strong focus in our aerospace and our oil and gas. Engineering jobs is one of the larger jobs availabilities in Broken Arrow. And then, as I mentioned, less competitive on IT, but that's really because of the depth of existing IT workforce and in competition with Dallas-Fort Worth and Austin. Okay, so the next one just goes more of in a deep dive. That's in your packet. And I'm going to go two more because I really don't need to have that second one. This is their strategic recommendations and next steps. So they are recommending to organize a strong RFI response and supporting documents and start pitching already. Develop and highlight a vision for the area around the district. So beyond the 90 acres, what is the future going to look like around that? Fully engage education and training partners, both support development, but also potential pioneers. So look at who we have, but who do we also want to develop? Develop a multi-pronged recruitment and target industry strategy. And so they're going to help us with identifying some companies that we can begin to go out of the gate. And then consider working with a partner to build a strategy around development options and develop a preliminary RFP. So we've talked a little bit about that. That's the challenge of, do we want to develop all at once or do we want to develop in pieces? And that's something that the committees are working on. You can go to the next one. That's just a detailed strategic plan that is in your packet. Go ahead. And then let's keep going, and we'll keep going on 3 pages. It's late, so you can tell I'm wanting to get everybody in bed. Somebody tried to make me do this in a minute back there. Just kidding. So next steps. Sorry. There we go. Oh, yes. Thank you. I didn't see where you were going. Our next steps are site visits. So downtown and Tech Center, Denver, that actually Jennifer Rush, Ted Cundiff, and Aaron Morris and I did that about a week ago. some great takeaways from a perspective of some developments that have done in high density developments, which are very intriguing. Oklahoma City Innovation District will be doing that in November. Cypress Waters, Dallas, and Generation Park in Houston will also be in November. So we're determining right now whether that's a bus, plane, bike, ride, whatever. We're trying to figure out the most efficient way to travel mass amounts of people to these things. But I'm excited about the level of interest. So really, it's basically going to be a mini a best practices trip, which will still be actually having a best practice trip in the third or fourth quarter, and it will be a focus on the innovation district. And also tying, the school has asked us to tie in some workforce solutions in that, so they can understand engaging the students with businesses. We are started committee meetings, layout and design. Actually, just met. It felt like a week ago, but was it yesterday? I think. And was it yesterday? Incentives will begin. Target industries, which we have some good groundwork, but we just need to have a committees determine, and then those things start to go. All this stuff will funnel up to the EDC board and then up to council for recommendations. And then our marketing strategy and entrepreneurship and workforce and education. We're tying in both workforce and education. Entrepreneur committees, we have two very strong ones existing right now within the EDC. So we're just utilizing those, which have a ton of private sector involvement, as well as the school systems across the board. So, and then entrepreneurship, there's a very strong private and public sector committee already. So that is, kind of looking forward. We're actually in a hyper, I think, as far as the ED standpoint and working with city staff, we're moving forward pretty quickly. We have people we have interest in the prime opportunity to be able to do this. So some of the stuff that we're going to start coming to you about with recommendations and I put on your radar is layout and design, zoning and comprehensive plan. So comprehensive plan says it's right now zoned agriculture. So that's, but a comprehensive plan has this defined. So we need to walk through that process. One of the recommendations by the site selector was that just get that taken care of out of the gate in one fell swoop, because it will always be a hindrance to any unknowns in that process and attracting businesses when they're putting you against about 6 or 7 sites across the country. We want to remove any barriers or questions to that process as much as possible. So that really hits the other pieces, the boundaries, the innovation district, target industries. When I say boundaries, I mean it's just how do we market this, and how do we tell this story? And then infrastructure, recommendations, incentives, and discussion. There has been discussion of an overlay district, or how do we ensure that this looks like what the city has envisioned in that 90 acres. So I'll take any questions or comments, concerns.
Anyone?
Exciting.
I want to thank the council
Very
for taking
exciting.
time to actually drill down with Jennifer, her team, and Jennifer Rush, so you'll know exactly more about each of those items on there. And I just think that's important. We do that periodically because, as Jennifer said, there's going to be some decisions in the next, 5 or 6 months, if not sooner, the council is going to have to make that come from the EDC. And we want to make sure that it's not just a short presentation, that you're very familiar with what's going on.
Yeah, it's probably just for the record, we all met with Jennifer Conway and Jennifer Rush, 223 or 221, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it was really informative. I really appreciate you taking the time. And it was very helpful because it's hard to, like you said, this has never been done before. So just wrapping our minds around what this can be and what we want it to be is a huge undertaking. Yeah. So I like you said, the chicken or the egg this whole time. Yeah. It's
because you talk innovation district and you start listing cities with innovation districts, and they're all infill. They're all it's all structures that this is for the. It's just not been done.
Yeah, it's exciting. I was thinking about that today at the 10-year anniversary for Rose District. Many of us weren't there at that point, and so. What is that going to look like for the innovation district? Who's going to be there and be like, look what happened, look where we are. And this is the part that can be the heaviest lift in that process. And so if we're all keeping our eye on that vision and we're following in it, I'm thankful for y'all's time, because it's just hard to communicate all that in these meetings, in this brief time of presentations of the depth that we have and that the city staff is working on, that we all are. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to accept or anything?
I don't believe so.
No.
Just information. And lots of information.
Yes. There is no general authority business. Remarks from governing bodies? City manager?
No, ma'am.
We have no executive session.
Need to adjourn?
Second?
A motion and a second. Roll call. All right, we are back in regular session. We do have a executive session.
I'd make a motion to take a brief recess to clear the room to enter executive session.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.